it's good, and the sun is shining, which is the most important thing for me.
I know. It just affects your mood, doesn't it? Totally.
So today we have our very first guest coming in, which I'm absolutely delighted at. And it's Caroline Kennedy Alexander. Let's get it right.
Mm-hmm.
And I met you a good year ago, I believe. And at the time, when I was listening to you, your story is inspirational, without a doubt. So I am really delighted that you've come in and we can share it all and your experiences and your journey that you've been on and see where we can actually pass on some nuggets to new business owners.
Yeah.
So, yes, you start.
Well, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2012. And my sister before me had, she'd actually passed away from breast cancer.
Right.
But we didn't have a gene or anything. There was actually another sister before I was diagnosed as well. So out of 6 girls, 4 of us have had breast cancer.
Wow.
That is not connected.
That's amazing in itself, then, eh?
So when I got it, it was still quite a shock, obviously.
Yep.
But I decided to change. I decided to do something positive with kind of my recovery, because what I realized was going through something like breast cancer, it wasn't even about the physical side of it. It was more about the emotional and psychological recovery.
Yep.
That was the hardest bit for me, because I was young. I had 2 young children. And yeah, all of the kind of information around breast cancer and all of the kind of the clothes and lingerie that were available to you were very much from kind of another era. You know, our operations and our medical things have come on leaps and bounds, but the underwear side of it hadn't really changed at all for like 20 years.
Wow.
So because I had trained as a fashion designer in another life, I decided I could use those skills for something positive. So that was where the idea of Love Rose came about.
So we should have mentioned that your business is Love Rose.
Yes.
And it's lingerie. And it's upmarket lingerie.
Yes, it's high-end, and it's post-surgery.
Post-surgery.
Although, if anybody, wants to wear a healthy bra, I have a lot of clients who haven't had any surgery at all, and they buy my products because they feel so good on their body. And it's called Love Rose, I would like to say, just because it is in memory of my sister Rose. So it's a very personal family kind of thing.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. So that in itself, so from that adversity is what's brought you in. And at what point in that then did you decide that this is a route you want to go down? Because I'd imagine, although you've studied it, the fashion industry is quite cutthroat.
Yeah, and also lingerie is quite, it's very different to just mainstream fashion.
Yeah.
It is a very specialised skill, and I had no clue, to be really honest.
Yeah.
So I just started to do a little bit of research, and as I say, I did some focus groups. I did surveys to see if other people felt that there was a need, because obviously, because I liked fashion and I had taken care of my body and I wanted to dress it nice. I wanted not to be reminded when I got up in the morning that I was a cancer survivor as such. So there was nothing available on the market. There was high street, but then there was nothing else. And so this was kind of my starting point. I knew I'd be a first footer. I knew that it was going to be kind of difficult to get proper kind of research. Yeah. But that was my starting point. And it took me quite a few years to get to the point where I thought, okay, now I can prototype.
And that, I think, is a big thing in itself, that you've not really jumped in there and thrown sort of all your eggs in a basket to start a business. You have took your time to see if there is a market there for what you're doing, and that's critical. I think there's a lot of people will just start up a business without really having that background. And
No, I think having an idea is one thing, but I do think that it needs to be something that other people require as well as
Yep,
yourself.
yep.
You know, it can't just be, yeah.
And if you're solving a problem, that's a big start, I think,
Yeah.
for sure.
And also, yeah, I feel that what I've done is it has given me a purpose as well. I love kind of helping other people
Yeah.
find their confidence
Oh, of
and
course.
whatever. So, but yeah, I have to say though that starting with something like manufacturing in this country was very difficult because we've lost so much of our manufacturing.
Yeah.
So it was finding my path. How do I start? Where do I go? How do I find the people with the skills that I require? And that was that was a journey and a half.
And it's difficult, you know, it's the same because we've obviously starting business. A lot of it is just learning a way to get over the problem that you've got in front of you.
Yeah.
And did you get any help at all at the start from anyone? Or-
Well, you know, I contacted quite a few business people. So I live in Edinburgh, so that was where I had a gallery before that. So I did know a lot of people in business. And I just went and I phoned them up and asked if I could meet them for a coffee. I wanted to pick their brains, find out how I could go about things. How could I find some money to help me prototype? How could I find some money to help me get to the stage where I could make enough garments for focus groups, etc. I didn't have any finance really myself, and I had already used up, you know, what I had.
Yeah.
So it was, I went to Scottish Enterprise, I went to Business Gateway, I went to business people who could suggest ways and means of acquiring either support business-wise or funding.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, again, that's great. If you've even just had the go to pick up the phone and phone business people, because we were talking earlier about the fact that, you know, it is amazing how much help is out there if you just
People
reach
are,
out.
yeah, they
Yeah.
do. I think, especially if they have run successful businesses themselves, I think people are really generous with their time,
Yep.
and they want to give back. And so I think also my business has a real kind of purpose about it. And I don't think there's anybody who hasn't been affected by cancer in some
Everybody,
form or
yeah.
other, sister, mother, you know, whoever, friend. And so, yeah, I received a lot of help and guidance, which I'm really grateful for.
And I think growing your business and yourself as an individual and the knowledge, then it's definitely an amazing route to go down if you can just have that sort of outlet that you can pick a phone up and ask.
Yeah.
And do you find now that you're in that industry then, is there people around you that are in the similar industry that you speak to or talk to or can get advice from or give advice?
Yeah, I mean, I now, you know, I happily kind of give time to people who want to pick my brains
Yep.
about either starting up, you know, another business. It doesn't matter if it's in my market or not. In fact, I welcome it because since I actually have started, there hasn't really been anybody new in our space
Right.
at all. There are some swimwear people coming in now, which, it's great. It's like when you open a coffee shop next to another coffee shop, you know,
It's a community,
it's a
certainly, yeah.
community,
Yeah.
and choice is everything. And that's the whole reason I started Love Rose in the first place, is because there was no choice. If you wanted something that was different from the status quo of what was out there.
And I mean, I know not from a man's point of view, but from a woman's point of view, when you're getting dressed in the morning, the underwear is a massive part of
Oh my God,
what
yeah.
makes you.
Like you know, you don't want to. I mean, I'm 5'3", and I, you know, was consumed by these bras that were the medical bras. So the post-surgery market is basically run by medical brands.
Yeah.
And these are people who, first of all, produce prosthesis and prosthetics, and then they kind of make the bras as an afterthought. Whereas I went in with, I wanted something aesthetically pleasing, soft, no underwires. And, we worked long and hard with, my professor, my surgeon at the Western General was a fantastic help
Right.
to me. And he basically answered all my questions about what was required and whatever. And that was my starting point. It wasn't the bras that were already out there. I just wanted to know, what would you need for this outcome, all the different outcomes. And he gave his time to me
It's amazing.
readily, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and that's a good, again, that's medical background as well,
Oh,
as
yeah.
to what would work and maybe wouldn't work so much with something like that.
Yeah.
And design-wise then, how did you get around designing what you've, because your designs are really, there's quite a
Yeah.
lot of thought going into these.
Oh, there's about 31 pieces in
Yeah.
each bra. So, they are properly engineered. So I did the initial kind of drawings and whatever, and then I worked with my girl called Sarah, who was with me for many years. And together we kind of, we still have it actually framed, but we made our first prototype. But then when we realized, actually, now we need to get in some serious help, I got in touch with some people down in the Midlands who used to work for, when the manufacturing trade down there was big, and you had Marks and
Yeah.
Spencers and all of these people. And so these skilled people down there got together a team, and they built my first prototypes, which was fantastic. But it was so hard to find them, because when people find these skilled people, they keep the information to themselves.
yeah.
And I used to go to trade fairs and the big lingerie shows in Paris, and just keep my ears open to try find out where these people were having their stuff manufactured, and because nobody would tell you anything.
Yeah. Closed door. So
Yeah.
and when you had the prototype made, that's this whole thing that's been in your head, all the research is
it was
now.
so fantastic. I mean, to
I can
do
just
that.
imagine, yeah.
I mean, and also, I will say that I started this off not just with one bra, but with 5,
Right.
because the outcomes of surgery, need different types of bras and different types of support. And I remember, there was a lot of people telling me, "You're crazy producing 5 different kind of products as such to start off with." But I just knew from the beginning that I wanted to give the word choice comes up a lot, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want to exclude anybody.
And I suppose, it's a niche market as such. With what you're in, you'd be making it even smaller if you just concentrated on one sort of element of what goes on with the surgeries.
And it's further niche for me, because my product is premium, so it's a percentage of the percentage.
Yeah.
But that's where the gap was, and I have brought in a cheaper ranges
I was going to
now.
ask that. Yeah. So there is other avenues.
and continuously kind of also filling the gaps where bras they are quite a technical thing. So you've got people with smaller backs and bigger breasts and all the rest of it. So you could go on forever producing, but because I'm small, I'm trying to kind of make sure I cover the largest percentage of people. You'll never fit everybody,
Yes, exactly.
sadly.
And so Sarah that was with you, was she a partner in the business then?
No, she just worked worked for Love Rose, but we had a very kind of good working relationship, although we were both coming from a design background.
Right.
And I would definitely say, if I was to do it again, that as much as I loved working with Sarah, and she actually worked as a consultant initially, she didn't work for the business because there was no business. But I would definitely start off with a financial person and somebody who's the creative, because that it didn't cause me problems in the beginning, but certainly as time went on, I realized actually neither of us have the skills of finance and running the business.
Yeah. Which is obviously a big part of it all. And that's,
huge part. But you live and learn, and that was
Yep.
definitely one of the things that I realized early on that yeah.
Because I remember because I was a director in a company, that's how I kind of got started on that side of business. But it wasn't run very well at all.
Yeah.
Like, it was a huge learning curve for me on how not
Yeah.
to run a business. But I remember reading something, and it might have been Richard Branson actually, but it was something on the lines of a profitable company can still go under if it doesn't keep up its cash flow.
Oh yeah.
And same the opposite. If you're an unprofitable company, can just keep trading forever as long as it keeps up its cash flow.
Yeah.
And that just resonated with me. But the finances, as you say there,
Yeah.
and this is where getting good people around you is
Yeah.
definitely a
I
good
I
thing.
think for Love Rose we had definitely a couple of phases. So when we decided to we got approached to no, first of all, let me start again. We went to do a competition called Scottish Edge,
Right.
and we won £45,000 or something like
Wow.
that, which helped with our very first manufacturing. And that was basically the platform that got us on to making our new kind of designs, etc., to a larger scale. So, and we had issues, I have to say, as well, with manufacturing initially, because we were ready to launch and everything got stopped because of COVID.
Yeah.
And we were with manufacturing in Portugal, and it was an absolute nightmare. But these kind of things were hurdles that were very specific to that time. And since then, obviously, we've experienced manufacturing in another European country, but so much easier.
Yeah.
But now, thanks to Brexit, we have our other issues.
I
But
know.
let's not get into that
That's
yet.
a constant with that.
But so for me, we did Scottish Edge, won that, and then Dragon's Den.
Yeah, we've not got to that yet. Let's have that one.
They contacted me on April Fool's Day and said, "Hi, Caroline, would you like to come on Dragon's Den?"
So they contacted
and
you.
I was like, "Yeah, right, okay." Who is this? However, anyway, it was true, and we did that. And I'm really glad we did it, because for the business PR wise,
Yeah.
I would say,
Can't beat that.
if anybody ever
Yep.
is planning to do it, just do it, because it's the best thing for PR for your brand.
And it reran as well for you.
It did recently, so I had another influx of orders, which was fabulous. But from that, although we got nothing in the den,
Yep.
but I knew going in anyway, we were going to say no, because I had many friends who had successfully kind of got money from them, but then it had problems with shareholding after.
Yes,
So
yeah.
anyway, I got other shareholders from that. People contacted me and said, "Listen, I've just had cancer. I've just seen your business on Dragon's Den. I'd like to help you." So that opened a whole new world for me, called fundraising.
Yeah.
And that was that was quite the journey and a learning curve.
We'll get into that. So let's go back to Dragon's Den first.
What you
So
want to
I'm
know?
surprised they contacted you then.
Yeah, like
And is that how it normally works, or is it
I
just a
have
bit
no
of both?
idea.
Or?
Well, actually, I think most people probably apply unless you do something like Scottish Edge, which
right.
is you're definitely on the competition.
Puts you on the picture, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you win, I think then they might contact them in the hope that you're still looking for further
Yeah.
funding.
And I would imagine that it is nerve-wracking. Or did you not seem... Because when I watched it, you didn't seem like you were too nervous.
Oh, yes,
Like,
we
you've done
were.
well. Well, I could imagine you would be, but
Totally.
you did
But I
definitely
mean,
look good.
I was just afraid in case, they'd make a meme of something I
Yes,
said. This was the threat I was getting from my son. But, what was really good about that for me was you had to do so much due diligence
Yeah.
on your business, because it's BBC, and honestly, like the forms were that
Right.
high. And we were in there for an hour. You got absolutely interrogated. So what you see in the clip for 3 minutes
That's what I was
is
gonna ask you.
nothing.
Right.
So where you have no clue whether it's going to come across okay or not is
Yeah.
that they edit it whichever way they want
Yeah.
to.
And that's the hard bit. I think that's what I would struggle with as well.
Yes, you've no control over
Yeah,
that, you know.
exactly.
But that's, you know, daring greatly and just trusting the process and think, okay, hopefully, you know, they will show me in a good light.
And there was a bit of arguing going on.
Oh, a massive argument.
And of course it snapped down, so was it longer than what was
Oh
shown?
my God, it went
Yeah.
on for about half an hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it, honestly, Sarah and I, we were just like kind of looking from one to the other. It was like being at Wimbledon.
Because there's a lot of egos on that panel.
Huge
you know,
egos.
that's
And
the thing.
I think actually Stephen Bartlett had this was his 6th kind of show
Right.
with the other judges. So we were kind of warned by the producers before we went on that there could be a little bit of argy-bargy.
Because I
So-
thought that he might have put an offer in just because of the goading that was going on. by
And
Tudor.
he almost did. But, you know, I think, it is because they understand business. You know, what we were asking for was so small. And as Peter Jones actually said in the program, he had another friend who owned Listenza, I think, which was an underwear, just for normal underwear brand. And it does take millions. So that would lead on nicely to what I'm going to say about, you know, when we went to get investors in, is, and this is a big thing for anybody to consider who is looking for investment, is that when you are putting your pitch deck together and you're really considering what is it I need for this company for the next, you know, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, whatever, just double it.
Right.
Because it is, you forget about the fact that your lawyer fees, your accountancy fees, your shareholding fees, your tax fees for if you have employees who want EMI schemes or whatever, all of this actually racks up to a massive percentage of what you've just brought in.
Yep. That's right.
And I think that if you've never done it before, it is something that I hadn't fully really considered.
And then-
so yeah.
And when you took on someone, an investor, what was the outcome you were looking for? Was it someone to actually come in and help you with the business, or was it just purely financial?
No, what I was offered, so I had pitched to so many kind of angel groups in Scotland, first of all. Independents, I targeted some high net worth people also, and then I did London. And used a lot of kind of like the female, you know, they're usually part of the main kind of syndicates and whatever, but there might be a female section of it or whatever, thinking that because they're females and they understand what it is I'm trying to do, they might be more receptive of our idea. But actually, that makes no difference whatsoever. But it was a fantastic experience to go and to pitch to these people, to create different pitch plans and pitch decks for different types of people. But yeah, I think what I really wanted was to get somebody in who would help us run the business and to help us get to America, really. That was the end goal for me on year 5. So when I was approached by somebody who had 2 very big successful brands and was already in America, I just thought, wow, this is brilliant. The person had already had breast cancer, was obviously just through her treatment, so was feeling quite emotional about the whole thing. And the other shareholders I had were just had put in small amounts, but I was very grateful for them as well. And they all supported the fact that this person was putting in a larger amount and therefore was going to also help with the business.
Right.
So that was the initial thing. But so I made a few little mistakes.
Okay, let's get into it. This is all good stuff, because this is what anybody in
Yeah.
the position. This is some learning for you.
Well, so first of all, I was asked to put my website down under their website
Right.
so that they could fulfill for me in the Midlands.
Right.
Because that's where their whole fulfillment center was. It was an absolutely fantastic setup they had. And so they were expecting everything to grow really quickly. Where my mistake was, I think, is that I should have maybe got more of a plan as to how they were going to help us
Yep.
with that, rather than just looking at the logistics of fulfillment. Because actually we were still small enough that we could fulfill from Edinburgh. But the main problem and the main mistake I made was actually allowing my website to go under their, they had a purpose-built website for themselves, and mine became a part of that. It was
Right.
still independent, but it was a part of that, which meant for me as a small business, I couldn't change anything without going through
Right,
10
okay.
people. So, like, marketing levers out the window, because if I wanted to react quickly to something that was happening,
Can do it.
I couldn't do it. I was on a 3-week wait, and then abandoned baskets. I couldn't get in Klaviyo or any of these people because it didn't work with their website, because their website was purpose built, and I would have had to use one of the ones that they used. But because I wasn't turning over £5 million, I had to pay a lot of money to have that service, which I couldn't afford. Right. So there was so many things that I wish I had looked into. But so if you were to ask me what was the main thing that I did wrong, was I lost control of my website and being able to just change things up myself.
And is that, I mean, for them to come on board with you, you'd think that would be something they would try and work with you on then, to help you grow.
They did try, but unfortunately still wasn't quick enough, because what I was asking of them, they just couldn't do for me,
Right.
because it wasn't their fault per se. It was just the fact they were so big, and their website was purpose built. We'd come from a Shopify website, which for all small businesses, probably a platform like that, everything is on it.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And if you want to change a note on your front page, or if you want to change your products up really quickly, or your photographs or images or words, you can do it yourself. Just like the back end is there on your computer, and so
it's easy,
that's really important when you are a small brand.
Yep.
Because you have to be able to work quick. And so
react.
that was a react to what's happening. Yeah.
So how long did that process last then, and how did you manage to get yourself out of it all?
So I knew with the money that we had, because we were now having to kind of feed the dog. So we had people, we needed to get advertising in all the time, social and other forms of advertising. And so we were spending, 5, 7, 10 grand a month on a black art, as far as I'm concerned. We had digital agencies who, they were saying, oh, we're really struggling with trying to get you visible, Caroline, because like post-surgery, nobody's, we had to change our SEO. We had to do all of these things to try help. We basically did all of the things that you're supposed to do, but we were still not kind of ranking high, because we were up against anybody who had a post-surgery bra, be it Asda or Marks and Spencer's or any of these high-end, street, high street brands, who are massive.
Yep.
And so they bid against your words, and it was unbelievable. I couldn't quite fathom, why we weren't. We were spending this money. We were told if we did X, Y, and Z, it would really help, but nothing was really helping. And so you're you're spending, and it
And you're
was,
really relying on the expertise on that, them telling you what you need to do here.
well, you are, because I had no clue
Yep.
about
I mean, I wouldn't say I would either. You know,
ads and
Yep.
carousel ads and this type of, we did loads of A/B testing, we did loads of stuff. But what I found worked best actually for my brand was when I went out and did pop-ups and I could speak to my ladies. And then when I started to do that, we had a tour organized and whatever. That was the best kind of promotion and visibility I could get for my brand, because I mean, we had done all the background work as well. We'd met with all the charities. We were kind of visible enough within the community,
Yep.
but not really. London kind of was our busiest place, but even in Scotland, people still didn't know us, because unless you were on social media,
Yeah.
you didn't know who we
That's
were.
where everybody is now.
Well, you say that, but a lot of, we'll say, ladies that we were targeting weren't.
I suppose at that time as well, that's not what your main focus is going to be, is going on social media.
No, I think
Probably the opposite.
and also we were, my focus, because I'm a creative, was on product.
Yep.
And making sure that that was right. Sarah's was more on kind of like getting the prototype or the fabrics all together to the manufacturers and doing the drawings and that kind of thing. So we both were busy all the time, but not so sure we really focused on the right things.
Yeah.
And that's going back to the very first thing about,
Yeah.
I should have had a financial person
Yes,
from the beginning, in-house.
Definitely, I would say if you can, you should definitely.
Absolutely.
So how did you get out of it then in the end?
So I knew that our money would run out, because I knew what our sales were. It was matching everything that we had projected in terms of, we needed to bring in more. We knew that we had a finite amount of time, and I asked the shareholders if they'd put in some more money, and 3 of them, of the smaller shareholders, said they would follow their money. They still believed in the brand and knew what was happening in terms of visibility and the holdups that we were having down at the main kind of shareholders company. So, but the main shareholder didn't want to put in. So I went on a round 2 and tried my hardest to bring in more. However, it was, a financial crisis. Everybody was scared. There was a war had just started. Nobody knew what was happening, and I think that level of kind of uncertainty is not a great time. So synchronicity was not my friend with that. So I decided I was going to bring it back to Edinburgh. I told all of the shareholders, I'm just bringing it back to basics. I'm going to start again, and that's what I did.
So it's a massive decision, but
huge. And I was really sad about it, because at the time I felt exhausted and tired, and I just got another diagnosis of having to deal with a reoccurrence.
Wow.
And so I knew that was coming up, and this was still huge. And I had to leave, like, my marketing girl go, and so it was a real time of upheaval. But I knew I had to bring it back and just start again, but in a grow it organically, not bother with the whole marketing, but go out and do more pop-ups and just be more like physically present. And that's what
and that's kudos to you to even get to that stage, I think, of that decision, because that's massive. It's a massive decision, but it's the right one.
Well, when you don't know, I mean, nobody knows the outcome, so you go into things, and you don't know if it's going to work or not, whether you've got finite funds or unlimited funds. But if you don't kind of like dare
Yeah.
to go into it. You'll never know. But I felt I'd unfinished business. My community is so important to me. And I know how much of a difference that my product
Yeah.
makes to people. I know because I get the emails, I get the cards, I get the thank you. I've just,
Amazing.
ran around the kitchen in my underwear in front of my partner for the first time since my operation, or thank you, you've actually changed my life. I know these sounds like massive statements, and they are,
Yep.
but for me, that's my purpose. So that's why I keep going through
Tremendous.
all of the
Round of
adversity.
applause.
It's still, yay! It's still worth it for me though. Because I mean, I also, had cancer like 3 times, and I live with the outcomes of it every day.
Yep.
So that doesn't go away.
Exactly.
And now there's so many young girls. I just made a film for International Women's Day with 4 young girls, all early 30s. They're gorgeous. And, if I can make a difference to their life, it's worth it, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Worth
And
it.
so one of the things that definitely happened with the business I was involved in at the start was that it wasn't going right. Like, it was all pear-shaped everywhere you looked. And finances were a massive part of that. And even from my naive sort of stage in business, you could see that we needed to change. It needed to be downsized, and it needed to be started again. And the managing director at the time was the opposite. He just didn't want to, like, his opinion was, we need to get busier. So this animal that had been created just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was, there was just really no way back at that point. So to have that kind of, because we are learning as we go, but to have that sort of around you, to know that this is what needs to happen here,
Yeah.
I think that's great that you've.
I think running,
took the
like
jump.
actually physically running a business is like an MBA, doing an MBA live,
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
is such a learning curve. And I think that, when I do, standing up in front of 300 people at Scottish Edge and having some of the judges say to me, why aren't you a social enterprise? Now I wish I had listened to that sentence, but it was because I was absolutely so set on the fact that this was going to be a commercial entity and it was going to be successful, because there was 50,000 women being diagnosed every year in this country alone. And then, with the market research that I'd got from the States, it was so massive and they're so underserved, that I just thought this is a no-brainer. Like, it's not just because I'm fully invested in it myself, but when people do find out about us, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know you existed.
That's the hard part with business, is it's just making the people aware that you're there. And so how America then was a goal. Was that still a goal? Or
So it was a
on the
goal,
shelf?
but in fairness, I will have to say that the investor who I was hoping would help get us to America, she actually said to me, Caroline, it's taken us, a long time to get there. You need to, when you get in there, be able to have enough stock to supply. So I knew that financially I couldn't get there. So I had to accept that making ourselves successful here first was definitely the way forward. Going to Europe is also a tricky one, because you have different customs in different
Especially
in
now.
different countries, and now especially, yes. And but I do know that America is still that I still want to get to America, definitely.
And it's amazing that it could be anything or anyone that you meet that could get you over there as well
I
at
know.
any time.
I
Really,
know.
if you just keep knocking on that door.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been tremendous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think you're even more inspirational now that I've sat with you
Oh.
for this time.
Well, I just hope anybody who's listening who is starting out and thinking, will I, won't I, just do the research first and then follow your gut. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, if you think that something is viable, well, then I just think go for it.
You'll always regret the things that you didn't do.
Oh my
Yeah?
God, absolutely, absolutely.
So a couple of questions. What would be the hardest thing you think and so the journey of business itself, what's been the hardest thing that you've had to deal with?
I would say the hardest thing is managing investors' expectations.
Right, because I mean, it's a big step, I have to say. There's not a lot of people, obviously, that will be getting involved with investors, but as part of a growth strategy, it's almost like we haven't been involved in investors, but we've not taken on any debt. You know, we don't even have overdrafts.
I mean, if you can, that's the best way to do it,
it's
obviously.
a slow burner itself then. You know,
Yeah.
if you want the speed of growth, then you really need to kind of look at getting involved that way.
I know. I think it's also very different with a product-based business.
Yes, yeah.
Because your initial output is so massive that actually you need money in for to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
And it is constant. You know, it is a constant thing. And the more you grow, the more you need.
Yeah. I mean, I am definitely changing my model, though, my business model, because I used to just manufacture. It was all a guesstimate because obviously we hadn't done it before. But, you know, there's so many bra sizes and whatever that we decided to design everything in dress sizes. So we started extra small and go up to a 1X, 2X. And so there's room for maneuver kind of within each size. Yeah. But even at that, when you're producing that many units, it's such a costly thing. So really, I now think that going forward for our new products, we will be doing a thing where we will make some products, do some photographs, and then it'll be a pre-order situation.
Okay.
Because what I have found is that you're left with a lot of sizes. You're left with and that's just adding to the, you know, the clothes mountain.
Yeah. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense.
Yeah. It just is. It's good for the environment. It's good for your cash flow. Yeah.
And so if people need to find you or want to find you, where can they find you?
They can find me at loverose.me. And
That's
so
nice.
we are, that's the website. I do have some wholesalers dotted around the country as well.
Right.
But if you want to speak with me or whatever, I'm on email every day. So I quite happily help people with their sizing issues or just any problems they have with like post-surgery, prosthesis, whatever. Yeah.
Perfect.
So.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Good luck with it all. I
Thank
shall
you.
be watching, and we'll likely get you back on at some point and see how things are going.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.